Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Orient Star Contemporary Date reference RE-AU0109L. This watch is available from orientwatch.co.uk for £600, which is €687 respectively. Orient Star have a rich brand heritage. They were founded in 1951 in Japan, and then in 2015 Orient Star merged with Seiko Epson Corporation. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a watch box, which is housed inside this outer black cardboard box. On the top of the outer box, we have the Orient Star emblem and Orient Star logo in silver. So I'll take out the watch box and show it to you. Watch box is made from black plastic, which is coated with black vinyl with a grained finish. On the top of the spring-loaded hinge lid to the watch box, we have the Orient Star logo and also Orient Star emblem in silver. Heavily spring-loaded lid. And inside there is this block of foam, which is a protective panel and does a good job protecting the watch in shipping from any damage. The interior of the watch box is fully upholstered with contrasting grey velour fabric to a good standard. In the underside of the spring-loaded hinge lid, we have the Orient Star emblem, Orient Star text logo in silver. Base is also fully upholstered with grey velour to a good standard. And in the base, there is a padded pillow cushion, which again is grey velour fabric upholstered to a good standard. And the watch sits upon this in the base. Does a good job protecting it in shipping. Heavily spring-loaded, snaps shut with a nice positive click. And every side of the plastic watch box is coated with black vinyl to a good standard. So, good presentation, aesthetically pleasing, and it is acceptable in the mid-tier. And to remind you, mid-tier is €500 to €5,000 price point. It's acceptable at €687, the price point of this watch, to use a plastic watch box. With regards to items that come with the piece, this is the plastic tag, and on the front we have the Orient Star emblem and Orient Star logo embossed in silver. On the reverse we have a sticker with a barcode for the piece and the full reference number of the ice blue version of the Orient Star Contemporary Date, which is RE-AU0109L. Now, there are two notable items which are absent. Nor will I be critical of this, but on this occasion I'm not going to be critical. So why is that? Well, this is a review sample. So they have omitted the two items, but they are the owner's instruction manual printed booklet with clear concise diagrams, instructions in English detailing the operation of the movement used, which is the Orient Star Caliber F6N43 Automatic, which is an in-house caliber made in Japan, and in reality it's made by Epson, the parent company of Orient Star. Also, there's a warranty leaflet with a warranty card, and of course, if you purchase the piece from orientwatch.co.uk, it will come with the owner's instruction manual booklet and also the warranty card and leaflet. But on a positive note, I'm pleased to report that this Orient Star Contemporary Date is covered by the usual 2-year international warranty, which is the industry standard for mid-tier pieces between €500 and €5,000 respectively. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 38.5mm case diameter. We have a lug-to-lug measurement of 46.9mm, a thickness of 12.4mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 17.8mm at the 2-button push clasp. Solid 316L grade stainless steel clasp, pressed stainless steel versus being solid milled, and I'm going to be critical of that because it's a light gauge, but however, on a positive note, it is finished to a good standard. Orient Star emblem, Orient Star text logo engraved with high definition engraving. Beautiful luster to the body, and that contrasts with a flawless mirror polishing to the flanks. Rather than having bevels, we've simply got curved transitions, but they have been deburred very well. No sharp edge to the top edge or the low edge, no sharp corners, and no sharp edge to the undercuts to the flanks. However, I'm going to be critical of it only having 3 micro adjustment holes in the flanks. I'd like to see a longer clasp used with 5 micro adjustments because 3 is the bare minimum, and in the absence of half links on the 6 and the 12 o'clock side of the bracelet, we only have full links. Sometimes it's hard to get the correct fit because adding or subtracting 1 full link from this style of bracelet sometimes means the bracelet is too tight or too loose, and of course 3 micro adjustment holes in the flanks of the clasp only give half a link of adjustment. A longer clasp with 5 micro adjustment holes would be beneficial, half links on the 6 and the 12 would be beneficial, and ultimately the best option would be a solid milled body with ratcheting internal micro adjustment mechanism with 10mm on the fly adjustment. That would give the perfect fit. So I'd like to see this updated, but this is the style of clasp Orient Star using in 2025. That's just the way it is. With regards to the rest of the specification, we have a flat sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished applied indices, silver mirror polished applied Roman numerals at 12 and 6 respectively, power reserve indicator, and also silver mirror polished Dolphin handset. So, to put this piece into perspective, in terms of dial execution and handset finishing, Orient Star is a level above Orient, rather like Grand Seiko is a level above Seiko, but it's not Grand Seiko level. So, to put the quality of the execution of the dial and handset into perspective, level above Orient, equal to the best of Seiko, but a level below Grand Seiko. So, the Dolphin hands are mirror polished to a very high standard, but they're not mirror polished to the same level as Grand Seiko Dolphin hands, which is the very best handset polishing I've ever seen. Grand Seiko Dolphin hands are mirror polished to a level above Tudor, Rolex and Omega respectively. They are high tier level, make no mistake about it. So, Orient Star are still a level above Orient nonetheless, and equal to the very best of Seiko. They deserve full credit for that. The applied indices are faceted, they're not just flat. Nice 3D profile, they have grooves machined into them. And I like the profiling because the legibility is good. They contrast very well with the ice blue dial. Ice blue dial has a nice metallic sheen to it, so to clarify, it's not a sunray ice blue dial, it's not glossy enamel blue, and it's not textured. Now, when I say it's not textured, the centre circle of it is smooth. It does have texture beneath the applied indices and the applied Roman numerals at 12 and 6 respectively, but the main portion of the dial is not textured. That's the point I'm referring to, and beneath the chapter ring it's not textured, that's smooth. The only textured portion is the concentric circles beneath the applied indices and beneath the Roman applied numerals. But nice 3D effect to it. Silver framing around the date complication adds interest and balance to the dial. And although it's an asymmetrical dial because of the date complication at the default position of 3, I like the balance of it because we do have a lot of information. We've got the power reserve indicator or complication at 12, and of course the large applied silver Roman numerals at 12 and 6. So the 12 Roman numerals balance the 6, that's good. And I like that there are 3 lines, effectively 3 lines of text, because we've got the emblem for Orient Star at 6 o'clock, Orient Star text logo and automatic. It does need those emblem and 2 lines of text or 3 lines at 6 because it balances the power indicator at 12, which does take up a large area on the dial. But the benefit is, by having the power reserve indicator at 12, the legibility is excellent. Proportion of the power reserve hand is good. I like the scale in silver, has a nice reflective sheen to it. It's matte finished. And I like it's got hour indicators on it. And we've also got the Arabic numerals 0, 25 and 50, which is useful. It's practical because you can tell when the mainspring has 0, 25 and 50 hours of power reserve respectively. And the legibility is very good. What I like about the date complication is the date window is correctly proportioned, but the silver framing isn't too deep and it's not too thick. So often low tier brands and low tier micro brands and mid tier brands and mid tier micro brands make the fundamental error when they frame a date complication with a silver frame like this. They make it too thick. The frame is too wide, it's too thick and also too deep. And the problem is the dial is too thick as well. So what happens is the detrimental aspect is you get this permanent shadow cast around the date window because the depth of the framing and also the thickness of the frame makes a shadow. With this, it doesn't have the problem, and it's something that Orient Star do very well. Like Grand Seiko, the dial isn't too thick, the framing isn't too thick either, so you don't have this deep black shadow around the single and the double Arabic numerals. The black Arabic numerals on the white date will contrast very well, but the legibility is good, the alignment is good, and we don't have that detrimental shadow. There's no need for a Cyclops magnifier because you can easily read the single and the double Arabic numerals. The date is clearly legible. It's a very well done silver frame. It's subtle, but it's an aspect that so many brands get incorrect. Orient Star do it very well. Grand Seiko also do it very well. So dial is very well executed. I like the quality of the printing of the black minute ticks on the chapter ring, and they've got circles which are infilled with C3 Superlume Nova next to the applied indices. Subjectively, I'm going to be critical of that because I think they've missed an opportunity here, which I'll show you in the Lume test. The applied indices could have been engraved and infilled with 5 to 6 layers of C3 Superlume Nova. That would have been beneficial. Subjectively, some Orient style collectors will say, well, it would spoil the aesthetic because we've got mirror polished applied indices mirror polished Roman numerals at 12 and 6. And of course, if they engraved the applied indices and then filled them with C3, it wouldn't match the aesthetic of the silver mirror polishing to the Roman numerals at 12 and 6. This does look like a daily wear piece or potentially a dress piece. As a result, it is very shiny with the dolphin hands and the silver mirror polishing to the Roman numerals and the indices. It all matches. So aesthetically, it does look very good. But I think the performance would have been better, and if necessary they could have fully loomed the Roman numerals at 12 and 6 to match the loom on the applied indices. But what they've done is an alternative. Around the chapter ring, next to the indices and next to the Roman numerals at 12 and 6, they've done circles which are infilled with dots of C3. Problem with that is it's difficult to apply 5 to 6 layers into circle dots versus indices which can be engraved with greater depth, and I'll show you the detrimental side of that in the loom test. But dial is good, legibility is good, readability is good, date complication is easy to read, power indicator is easy to read, proportions of the dolphin hands are correct, tip of the hour dolphin hand extends all the way to the applied indices, it's long enough. Tip of the dolphin minute hand extends all the way to the black minute ticks, it's long enough, and the needle point second hand extends all the way to the black minute ticks on the chapter ring. So credit where credit's due, they've got the handset proportions correct. Mirror polishing does look similar to Grand Seiko dolphin hands. They are faceted, they're brushed satin finished and mirror polished, and they are very well polished. I really like the quality. So they're made from brass, which is laser cut and then rhodium plated, and of course the quality of the silver rhodium plating is stellar. Very nicely executed dial, not as good as Grand Seiko, but equal to the very best of Seiko and certainly a level above Orient, respectively. So, rest of the specification: solid 316L grade stainless steel bezel, flat profile versus domed profile. Low profile, I like that it's partially recessed into the top of the case, keeps it nice and thin and low profile. This piece is only 12.4, which is good, even though it has 100 meters and a screw down X-Vision case back, which of course does add some thickness. So I like it's not too thick. And the other thing I like about it is the depth of the rehorts. So, to clarify, if you look at the rehorts, you can see when I tilt the piece at an oblique angle, it's not as deep as if this were powered by an NH35A or an NH38. You will all be familiar with deep rehorts used on low-tier Chinese pieces. That's something I like about Orient Star. Like Grand Seiko, they use very low-profile rehorts, much thinner than Seiko pieces which are NH35A and NH38 powered, as I've detailed. So this depth of rehort is more like a piece which is powered by a Miyota 9015 or 9039. And of course they're thinner calibers than the NH35A, and the cannon pinion handstack height is lower, and of course the benefit is you can have a thinner rehort as per an SW200-1 powered piece or a 9015 powered piece. Same applies to Orient Star, nice slender rehorts. So sapphire crystal sits closer to the second hand on the cannon pinion, sits closer to the dial, the power indicator and the date complication. Legibility is enhanced. When you look at the piece straight on, the sapphire crystal looks invisible as a result. It actually looks like the sapphire crystal is touching the handset. That's how close it is to the cannon pinion. That's how close it is to the dial. And it really does enhance the piece. When you're wearing it on wrist and you tilt the piece at an oblique angle, you can see how shallow the rehort is, how close the sapphire crystal is to the dial. This is the kind of refinement one doesn't get with a Orient piece, and this is why I say Orient Star really is a level above Orient, equal to the very best of Seiko, but a level below Grand Seiko respectively. But it is excellent. So, case is solid 316L grade stainless steel. Longitudinal brushed satin finishing to the tops of the angular lugs. Nice large angular bevels which mark the transition between the top of the angular lugs and the brushed satin finish flanks. Flanks are low profile, they're angular rather than being curved, but what I like about the case is it's not too thick, it's not slab sided, it doesn't look visually like a block of 316L grade stainless steel. Angular profile to the undercuts to the flanks matches the angular profile to the top bevels. The bevels are mirror polished to a very high level, but not Grand Seiko Zaratsu level. That's the point I want you to be aware of. So, in terms of case finishing on this piece, both the brushed satin finishing and the mirror polishing is a level above Orient, equal to the very best of Seiko, but a level below Grand Seiko Zaratsu level. Grand Seiko Zaratsu level really is the ultimate. In terms of the bevels, the mirror polishing, it's done to the highest level. But this is just not quite as good as the mirror polishing on the Grand Seiko case, such as the Grand Seiko Heritage, which I previously reviewed. The brushed satin finishing to the flanks is fine. It does have a beautiful luster, but again, it's not Grand Seiko level brush satin finishing. Undercuts to the flanks do have a large bevel, which deletes the sharp edge. Comfort level is enhanced, no sharp edges, doesn't feel rough, doesn't scratch the wrist, and the tips of the angular lugs have bevels. They've been deburred on the underside, so it doesn't scratch the wrist. Very comfortable piece to wear as a result. Let's check the bracelet execution. So, female pincer end links articulate freely, don't feel stiff or kink, that's the benefit. However, do have excess longitudinal, lateral, side-to-side, up and down play. They can easily tighten up the tolerances to an interference friction fit simply by drilling a smaller diameter hole for the spring bar and also increasing the diameter of the spring bar going through the hole. That would tighten it up. Does feel smooth, doesn't feel stiff, doesn't kink, that's the benefit, but we do have some excess play. Bracelet is finished to a very high level. So to put this into perspective again, level above Orient, equal to the very best of Seiko bracelet finishing, but not quite Grand Seiko level. Brush satin finishing does have a nice fine grained satin finish, beautiful luster to the centre links and the outer links, and then the inner links we have silver mirror polishing, which complements the mirror polishing to the flanks. No sharp edge to the top edge or the low edge, so it doesn't feel sharp. Doesn't pull arm hairs, that's the benefit. Articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. It's a fluid bracelet, and I like that it feels smooth. So, doesn't feel sharp, doesn't scratch the wrist because the edges are a bit deburred with bevels, and I like the quality of the brush satin finishing and the mirror polishing. It really is a level above Orient, equal to the very best of Seiko. Negative is, does have some play in it. It's not sloppy, it doesn't rattle, but you can see this is the negative of using push pins versus using screw pins, but one has to be magnanimous because Orient Star, like Seiko and Grand Seiko, they use pin and collars versus using screw pins, but of course if they use 1.2 or 1.6mm screw pins, that would tighten up the tolerances, but it does feel equal quality to a Seiko bracelet, but not as good or not as tight as a Grand Seiko bracelet. So really it's in between the two. Between Seiko and Grand Seiko respectively, Orient Star really sit in between the two in terms of bracelet finishing and also the amount of play, but I do like the smoothness, I do like the articulation. Let's check the other side of continuity. Female pin end links articulate freely, don't feel stiff or kink, that's the benefit. However, we do have some excess play in every direction. Bracelet does also have excess play, but on a positive note, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, it's fluid, no sharp edge to the top edge or the lower edge of the flanks, doesn't scratch, doesn't pull arm hairs, beautiful luster to the top side and underside, and the quality of the mirror polishing to the flanks is fantastic. They've done a very good job of it, but subjectively I'm going to be critical, and I am always critical of this in my other reviews. We've got a clash in finishing, and what do I mean by that? Well, there's a rule that when you have flanks on a case which are brush satin finished, the flanks on a bracelet should also be brush satin finished to match. Brush satin finished flanks, brush satin finished flanks. When the flanks on the head of a piece are mirror polished, the flanks to the bracelet should be mirror polished. Mirror polished flanks, mirror polished flanks. When you don't have that, you have a clash. So what we've got here is brush satin finishing longitudinally on the flanks to the head of the piece, but the bracelet is mirror polished. This just does not match. Now I appreciate it does have large angular mirror polished bevels, which mark the transitions, that's fair enough. And we do have the mirror polished centre links, as you can see, or the inner links. So there is continuity there, but it just doesn't match. What they should have done was mirror polish the flanks to match the mirror polish to the flanks of the bracelet, because when it's on wrist you can really notice that clash, and although it's not a thick slab-sided flank piece, it really just does clash. It doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing as a dress watch or a daily wear piece could do, and I think brush satin finishing on flanks gives the piece a tool watch aesthetic like a dive watch, but for a daily wear piece it just doesn't look appropriate. Had they brush satin finished the flanks, it would have blended better, but you can see the clash. Satin finishing on the flanks doesn't match the mirror polishing. Fundamentally they've got wrong. They're not the only brand to make that mistake, and therefore I'm always critical of it. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, bear with me, I'll take off my Concord 40. Haven't sized the bracelet, and I'm pleased to report that this will easily fit up to a very large 9-inch wrist size. I can easily slide an index finger beneath the bracelet and clasp at all times. This indicates this would fit a 9-inch wrist. Now bear in mind, I'm on position 3 out of 3 on the micro adjustments in the flanks. This is the absolute maximum. To clarify, there are enough removable links on the 6 and the 12 o'clock side of the bracelet. You can size this down to a 6 up to a maximum 9-inch, very large wrist size. However, as I've detailed, This could benefit from a half link on the 6 and a half link on the 12, and of course a longer clasp with 5 micro adjustment holes in the flanks, or alternatively a longer micro adjustment clasp with a solid milled body and internal ratcheting mechanism with 10mm on the fly adjustment. But that's the style of clasp they're using. Wrist presence is good, so 38.5. It's good for a 6 to 7 inch wrist, it's good for a 7 to 8 inch wrist respectively. However, I think they could have enhanced it by using the Perfection Personified 20 to 16 taper I often refer to. 22 17.8 is not really as popular as an industry standard. 22 to 18 is one taper which is popular and the industry standard. The alternative is the 20 to 16 Perfection Personified taper. That is the perfect taper for a 38, 39 or 40 case respectively. At 20 to 17.8 it looks more straight and parallel. Subjectively, some collectors would say, well, it's not detrimental. Some collectors like the straight parallel look of a bracelet like this, rather like an Omega Speedmaster bracelet which doesn't taper, it's straight. I think an aggressive taper, 20 to 16, looks better on a 38, 39 or a 40. It's the industry standard for good reason. What I do like about it is the low profile rehort, as I've detailed. Sapphire crystal is close to the dial. This is a low profile piece at 12.4, even though it has a exhibition case back and 100 meters. So it does sit very close to the wrist. Minimal gap beneath the tip of the angular lugs. Nice angular profile to the undercuts to the flanks. It means the head of the piece sits close to the wrist. Female put-in links are the correct choice. Had they used male links, there would have been a gap under the end link in the bracelet, but the benefit is the female put-in end links, you can see they pull snug to the wrist. Fit is fantastic with this piece. Feels very well balanced. It's 150 grams, and you'll know 150 grams and below is the sweet spot for a 38, 39 and 40. And bear in mind it's 150 grams with all the links up to a 9-inch wrist size. Even I would remove 2 or 3 links from my large 8-inch wrist. If you have a 6 to 7-inch wrist, you're going to be removing 4 or even 6 links from the bracelet. That will reduce it down to circa 130 to 135. So it's still 150, and for 6 to 7 inch wrists it's going to be 130 to 135. For 7 to 8 inch wrists it's still going to be 140 to 145. Very comfortable piece to wear. Doesn't feel like a thick top heavy slab of 316L grade stainless steel. 38.5 wears more like a 39. It's only 0.5 millimeter below that. Perfect for all wrist sizes, 6 to 7 and 7 to 8 inch wrist. Just a shame it doesn't have the 20 to 16 Perfection Personified taper and a longer clasp. Head of the piece feels balanced. Bracelet feels balanced. Just feels like the clasp is too light for the bracelet and the head of the piece. This would look better, but curvature is good for 6 to 7. It's not too bulky, not too wide. Beautiful luster to it. Does do the job. What I like about it is the metallic sheen of the ice blue dial. Power reserve indicator is clearly legible at 12 o'clock. Framed silver framing isn't too thick, so there's not a shadow on the date window. Easy to read the date, easy to read the time, easy to read the power reserve indicator. Practical daily wear piece. Ice blue dial has a nice metallic sheen to it, but it's not too shiny as per a glossy enamel dial, and I prefer it to just being a matte textured dial. It does look very aesthetically pleasing. Bezel is low profile. Flat sapphire crystal is the correct choice. Had they used a box top hat crystal or a double dome sapphire crystal, it would have added 2mm of thickness, and of course this would be 13 plus. This is only 12.4. You'll know from my previous reviews, anything below 13 is the sweet spot to easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. So at 12.4, it's 0.6 below the sweet spot. Very good proportions. Compact lug to lug of only 46.9. It's 1.1 below the sweet spot of 48. Usually I'd be critical of that, but I'm not in this case because 38.5 by 46.9 is nice and compact. This will be particularly beneficial if you're a collector with a 6 to 7 inch wrist. You'll enjoy the wrist presence, but it feels nice and short, so we don't get a large overhang or gap beneath the tips of the lugs. And on a large 7 to 8 inch wrist, the angular profile of the lugs and the undercuts is excellent. It actually fits very well. Looks good, feels good. Ice blue dial is gorgeous. I think it's a great looking piece. So let's test the push-pull crown execution. Just bear with me, I'll put back on my Concord 40 and then I'll continue. So push-pull crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters. Strictly speaking, this could have had 50 meters of hermetic seal because it's a daily wear piece, not a dress piece. Screw down crown, pushable crown is coin edge finish, solid 316L grade stainless steel, nice large chamfer which deletes the tips of the coin edge teeth, partially recessed into the right hand flank, which is beneficial because it's not too large and oversized as per a dive crown on a daily wear piece. When you flex the wrist, the benefit of the proportion is it doesn't dig into the back of the hand, it's not too large, but it is large enough to be grippy and tactile. You can get good purchase with your index finger and thumb, so it's good for manually winding, setting the date and also setting the time. So as it's a pushable crown versus a screw down crown, in the closed position one can manually wind the Orient Star Caliber F6N43 automatic to its maximum 50-hour power reserve, so it has an additional 10 hours over the industry standard 40. If you look at the power reserve indicator, you can see I've manually wound it already to its maximum 50 hours, but it's not detrimental. You cannot overwind it. This movement has a ratcheting mechanism and it releases excess tension in the mainspring. So to clarify, when the mainspring is fully unwound and exhausted and the movement stops dead, when the power reserve is completely depleted to 0 hours, 50 clockwise turns of the crown will fully manually wind it to its maximum 50 hours, but you don't have to worry about over manually winding it. For example, if you give it 55 turns, it's not going to damage the movements. You can't overwind the mainspring because the ratcheting mechanism releases excess tension. So once you get to 50 hours, if you accidentally go more than that, the ratcheting mechanism will release the excess tension, prevent damage occurring to the movement. So it's very well executed. So I'm already at 50 hours. You can see the legibility of the scale for the power reserve indicator at 12 is excellent. Feels very smooth to manually wind. Doesn't feel rough or gritty, doesn't feel stiff, feels smoother than manually winding a PT5000, feels smoother than an A215, also an NH35A. Feels more like the feeling of manually winding a Miyota 9015 or a 9039. It's got that kind of smoothness to it, so I really like it. Pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. If you look at the date, you can see it clicks over with a nice positive click. Loud audible clicks, feels good, sounds good. Heavy mechanism, so it feels like the quick set complication on an NH35A, which I actually really like. Feels reliable, feels robust. The clicking feels heavier than on an 8215, a 9015 and an SW200-1, which you may be familiar with. Feels more like an NH35A. It's a characteristic of the F6N43, has a heavy clicking feeling to it. Very like an NH35A. I really like the feeling of it. Pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movements. If you look at the needle second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead. So therefore it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with the Orient Star Caliber F6N43 automatic. We're now in the time setting position. Feels very smooth. Lighter resistance than an NH35A, lighter than a 9015, lighter than an SW200-1. Feels very refined and feels very smooth. Feels light, rather like a 9015 or 9039. Lack of friction in it. Doesn't feel stiff, doesn't feel rough or gritty. I like the meshing of the gearing, feels very smooth. It feels like a very refined movement, so I really like that. Lack of backplay is a benefit. So when you rotate the coin edge crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, there's an almost immediate response. You don't have to take up a lot of slack. Less slack than an H35A, less slack than an SW200-1, similar to a 9015. And I like it. When you rotate the crown, the Dolphin minute hand almost immediately responds. Some backplay in the meshing of the gearing is mechanically necessary. There is a reason for it, and I'll explain why. If it didn't have some backplay in the teeth of the gears, when you push back in the crown and the winding stem enters the movement, it would cause the gears in the winding gears to jump out of position and therefore cause the minute hand to jump out of position rather than remaining static. So some backplay in the gearing is necessary because then it prevents the winding gears jumping out of position and therefore making the minute hand move. So this is good. They've got it minimalized, but when you push it back in, nice positive click, but the minute hand remains static. It doesn't jump out of position. Feels very similar to a 9015 or 9039. I really like it. It's a level above the NH35A, and I actually prefer it to the SW200-1 in terms of refinement. It feels smooth to manually wind. Date feels heavy, nice clicking sensation. Setting the time feels smooth. It's excellent. So let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, 5 to 6 layers on the dots around the chapter ring, next to the applied indices, and 5 to 6 layers on the Dolphin handset. Good colour tone match, potency of the exciter is good. Camera's struggling to autofocus, just bear with me, it's focused now. So in daylight, good colour tone match, it looks white on the dots on the chapter ring, white on the Dolphin hands. And good proportions, because one can immediately differentiate between the larger, longer Dolphin minute hand and the shorter Dolphin hour hand. So, as I've detailed, this could be further enhanced had they fully loomed the applied indices, but subjectively one could say, well, that would spoil the aesthetic because they've mirror polished the applied Roman numerals at 12 and 6, and they've also mirror polished the applied indices. If they loom the indices, they'd also have to fully loom the Roman numerals at 12 and 6. That would spoil the aesthetic. I think it would have been beneficial. The dots just don't perform as well as loomed indices. Just bear with me, the camera's autofocusing. But potency of the exciter is okay. We're clearly looking at 5 to 6. We're not looking at 3 to 4 or 2 to 3. Just bear with me, I'll move it away and it'll focus better. So potency is good. Even application on the Dolphin hands, even application on the dots. And one has to appreciate it's difficult to apply 5 to 6 on the dots because they don't allow for the same depth as engraved or moulded applied indices. I think the indices should have been loomed and the Arabic numerals, but it's subjective. Some Orient style collectors will actually like the aesthetic of the silver mirror polished Roman numerals and the silver mirror polished applied indices because they do look very good with the Dolphin hands. So performance is good, it's acceptable for a daily wear piece. One has to be realistic and magnanimous. We're not looking at a dive piece. Dolphin hands are more slender than dive piece hands such as Mercedes hands and Snowflake hands, but performance is good. C3 Superluminova has an aesthetically pleasing green tone. I think it's okay. Right, so let's discuss the movement use because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. So this is powered by the Orient Star Caliber F6N43 automatic, which is in-house, made in Japan. And to remind you, in reality it's made by Epson and the exhibition case back is engraved with Epson. Epson are the parent company of Orient Star. And as I've detailed, in 2017 Orient Star merged with Seiko Epson Corporation, the parent company. So movement is decorated on the main plate with plage finishing, skeletonized rotor and gilt emblem, Orient Star emblem and Orient Star with Japan. And in terms of specification, it's 22 joules, runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. Hand winding and hacking are useful complications and they work well. Quick set date complication works well. Stated accuracy is -15 to +25 seconds per day, so rather wide accuracy range. However, I'm pleased to report that Orient are doing a good job of regulating the calibers they're using. This one is running consistently at -1 second per day. -1 is well within the stated -15 to +25 seconds per day. When it's fully manually wound to its maximum 50 hours, it's actually chronometer accurate. Chronometer accuracy is -4 to +6. So -1 is very impressive. 50 hours of power reserve is very impressive. It's an additional 10 hours over the industry standard of 40 for an automatic. And what I like about it is the power reserve indicator is very practical because you can easily see how much of the 50-hour power reserve remains in the main spring. Excellent movement, technically excellent. In terms of build quality, quality control, materials and finishing, I regard it as equal to a 9000 premium series Miyota caliber, such as the 9015 or 9039. It's equal to a standard grade of Sellita SW200-1, standard grade ETA 2824-2, or standard grade Soprod caliber P024 respectively. It's a level above the PT5000 and it's a level above the NH35A and the NH38 respectively, and a level above the Miyota 8215. So really it's equal to a 9015 or an SW200-1 standard grade, and I like it. I like the 50-hour power reserve. Build quality, quality control, materials and finishing are excellent. Sapphire crystal glazing is excellent, displays it to a good standard. Mirror polishing to the circumference, the stainless steel portion of the exhibition case back is good. The engraving is high definition and crisp, it's not too sharp, it doesn't feel rough. What I like about the exhibition case back is it's flat, it's low profile, it's not too thick, a deep bubble back case back as per an NH35A or NH38 power piece. It's more like a case back used with a 9015 or an SW200-1 powered piece respectively. So excellent case back. Quality of the mirror polishing to the underside to the head of the piece is excellent. Large mirror polished bevels on the flanks. 4 corners and tips of the lugs have bevels. They've been deburred very well. And their links are a nice tight fit. But they've used standard spring bars. This could be further enhanced with quick release stainless steel spring bars. So lastly, I'll summarise the piece. Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet two criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So mid-tier piece, price point is £600, which is €687. I'm going to declare it good quality, and I'm going to declare the value as okay. The reason why I don't say it's excellent quality and excellent value is because I'd like to see the tolerances tightened up in the end links, the bracelet, and I'd like to see the clasp updated. This does not say to me excellent quality and excellent value at €687. This clasp really needs to be updated to a solid mill body clasp with ratcheting micro adjustment mechanism. I'd like to see the tolerances tightened up because there is some play in the bracelet and end links. That would upgrade it to excellent quality and excellent value. But as it stands, with the specification and the movements, I would say that it is good quality and the value is okay. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Orient Star contemporary date, reference RE-AU0109L. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.